But yeah, so I was informed that the slot I was put into for today is the sort of academic poet slot, which I guess makes sense because I'm in college right now. So these are some things, these are just sort of old logos for guilds in London in like the 1600s or something like that, which I just think look really cool because they look like potential like beer labels or something like that. I think they're really nice. So, I mean, they made me take some class on something I knew nothing about. And I just thought it looked cool.
They look like labels on money.
All right. I guess I'm sort of another level I'm drawn to them just because I guess I'm a bit of a Karl Marx fan. I'm not sure I'd call myself a Marxist. But it's sort of fun to think about, what work would be like in a completely different thing if sort of every job you joined was kind of like joining a sports team or something like that. Or like was determined what color clothes you could wear on a given day or something like that. So these things are sort of, they're supposed to make you feel good about yourself. They're supposed to make you feel like a badass, but they're also supposed to be descriptions of what you do in your job. So, something to look at. So, as I mentioned, I'm a bit of a Karl Marx fan, but his books are awful long, so I decided to cut them down as short as I could. So, more academic poetry for you. Chapter 8, Eating the Paydays. The variations play in forming. We fresh to the subject our forces, mean reappearing, preserved. Not reappearing, not preserving. It's plain we are two characters, a cotton spindle, yarn and loom, iron and anvil, hands and hours. In their manner, its character as expenditure in that spinning. From the talented and single-minded, simply adding preserved originals to certain qualities and new quantities. This travail's toiling variation is the only meaningful flutter of flesh. It counts in what transfers and preserves and vary in proportion. The symbols flake off, heaped at gradually, not to dust, with trash and jokes about life insurance. An untranslatable land before valuable time with a multitude of sequels, stalled in production. Rumor has it, Tony Negri is the new voice of Littlefoot, with Hart in a cameo as Ducky. Were I, while here and now, give my all for them and elsewhere, already what will have been, has-been. Okay, but I didn't think I'd lose my thumb. The same holds good at its maximum loss, which costs nothing more than a managing's hazy summoning. This gratuitous gift unveils itself to a violent interruption, the process bearing it away from painful awareness. New things, old prices defines us. Then at the sound of the tone, you're suddenly uncalled for, nicely onward, over and above the account of means, the briefly constant, in whatever I'm doing, boom and bust, spanning us, as society barfs up at our mousetrap that can only cut my hours back. A friend of mine had his birthday yesterday, Robert Minfellow, I guess, along with Robert Minfellow. He's from Detroit. Along with Nico, I guess, is one of the few other shards of subtext that's staying around. So down Gene maybe. So yeah, into the mic.
Oh yes.
Yeah. All right. It is summer, isn't it? I'm just exhausted enough that I just don't even notice the heat. I recommend insomnia to all of you. It totally helps you overcome the weather. So he wrote a series of footnotes to this, and we're sort of I think they kind of sound like a comedy routine to me. So, because have you ever read the punchlines, the jokes are in the little side lines Marx puts in. First, goodbye, bug. Yes, he's a cockroach, but he's our cockroach, bemoaning the point of conversion. Blast it. Are we supposed to diagnose it or just add value to each? 2. Say what you will, but stand by it. Extravagant animals sing the 3. Extravagant animals sing the facts, intermediate equations with values that count. No essence for the mouse. Ask me in 10 years, a reproductive machine, one curve off, to seek the fruits of Tim. 4. Scarcely had my ditch been dug, spades violently churning, aces beat your pair of 2s. 5. Workers revolve and appreciate at a rate uncommon,
Retreads can't cotton to what's already worn out. 6. Remember, this banana tastes better than a dollar bill. 7. Return of the same to a theater near you. Surplus muscle and bone consumed the whole time, deformed at the cost of vigors. 8. It isn't a zero-sum game, is it? No some singular mess, so don't bother me with the particulars. More meaningless jargon. A fixative laxative, a useless lead, head first to example and propulsion. If you view these respective grafts, hear the fable of effective telling, a little toss of the dice, or loss of the dice, or swan schlong, this ambiguity type, a possibility of pounce, only if it's quite all right that the carrot's artistic, and that sandal dances thick on the film. Can nerve never volunteer valor? Baggy position, the still a lip alight, then inflicts the finish defined, enough explaining marquee, sand the example, a consonant in concert, a dig on film, don't delude in storm of tide, the lucidity lamp rests on a disappointment. Oh, this? It's telling and not telling about something. But as for myself, I'm always being encouraged alongside something I object to. But excuse me, what is your situation? The operations of the cult of overwork are rendered studious if your natural state is apathy. So speak up, speak out, and tell us what you think. Do you think the people of the cloth should be held to the thin beards they stole, or that they had only stolen what had been forgotten all along by them no less than us? This poem cries out for someone to be made professor. He begins to speak, but his subject isn't ours. From the secret diary of Joe Biden. The history of his hands were haunted by the specters of affinity and annihilation. A two-headed phantom of acts whose self-dramatizing masks shifts in and out of focus as momentous images pass before our understanding fleetingly. If this sounds decadent, it is because our messianism perverts the senses, preventing us from seeing ourselves as otherwise. But who are we when we are theorizing, and what right do we have to see ourselves in such an unproductive condition? If there is a positive aspect to all this, no one knows it. Yeah. I guess one sort of a side of me that is an academic is I got invited to Calgary, of all places, to sort of, like, they wanted me to write something about excess, so I ended up writing a bunch of poems about excessive celebration rules in the NFL. So, the ludic loses, the economic argument pays. I used to cook like that, and then I took an arrow to the knee. Thus we wailed sourly, crashed against the arrow of time's push. We dove, provoking the rule with lifted arms and low affinities, leaving no knees ground-bound. The shaken skillets of hunger for a shine-starved defense. To their wrists the gloves that stick are bound, having become unsportsmanlike. In those reflections a spontaneity strainer, still breathing strife, an unsubdued soul, taken knee-deep in the traffic it falls from. Far as wheeling sheep hook would have thrown it, but the ball wasn't passed and it wasn't even dead. And a rough hand in the pocket turned the arrow aside. The sacked point shook in fields found through its passage. So at my feet it fell to the ground. So on this day I'm giving my quail on toast, stuffed with oysters baked inside. If I all day watch as they harvest their custard pies from me, now I've quite intercepted it under pressure, with a disapproving David Bowie throwing a flag at me, a sheltering thing or a big pelt a shamer. It irks me that the East Coast media darlings do these things and get encouraged, but the moment it's seen on the West Coast, it gets a flag on it. Thou shalt no less have here. The best part of my game is serving up an illusion like a maitre d' right before I hand you the check. What is the good and the point after that I can integrate into my everyday linger? How can you ask for better or more? Interventions, repercussions, besides his great writing, his success and succession and clumsy clamor are overlays there in tackles, where clocks mean stopwatch and walk around to share units of Roman feud, and thrower's choice, you blow it by the wind in your hair, being you by we for I dream of being a fine dealer in finesses. Its ingratiating gratuity becomes minimalism to invisible men. To find the thread that holds us translucent over the fire shows the stitch which runs away as indefensibly as when you realize the web of exception born outside the work by half-turns machinating over the gridiron and under the sponge of false eyes pasted onward, floating throughout moors like millions of snowflakes, each one shaped like Bruce Springsteen. Oh, don't encourage me. Randy Moss shoots the moon. That is a disgusting act. Uncommented, a bit disguised, a bare scratch against the post. Not a real butt, but a mind's, slowly pulling out the deep emotional core of glutophobia from the TV announcer, Mr. Buck. Announcing is the true disgusting act, twice a sensory redundancy, and one of the best things ever done on the moon. Next dance, death penalty. Or the next time they score, everyone cries. Hitting someone for no reason is as wrong as hitting someone after the whistle is blown. Follow the elaborate dancing. It's somehow wrong to rub. That's the rub, wrestling the question with the question and rubbing their noses into it. I feel sorry for the goalpost. If you can find this gesture, you're looking too closely. Collectively effervescent and altruistic malnutrition, we somewhere between suck and stunk. It's part epic, part instruction manual, with an underlying comedy routine. You have departed unto the department store of the labor union, inferring what is good from what is up. Pure commercial fallacy. I'll read those. A long count of the smoke road. Welcome to the USSA. What's next, racist? No smiling? Is this just another pebble in the American mound for which we beg to be afflicted with fairer games? Demonstration. My son goes to a Catholic school, so he is taught that God is in the sky. Football is a team sport, and a lot of kids are hurting. A shoddy performance from people we trust, and a very bitter end for all of us. The best part of my game, besides being handsome, is all of it. Don't cream your pads thinking of depression. Without football, Green Bay is Buffalo eating off-season cheese. But if there is a bear or a lion or Viking there, I shall not fear, but wrestle them to the earth or astroturf filled with moon fudge. An inconvertible possession, this terrain, the feathery water. Why not eggs with wings? Want to dance? Do it this way, somewhere else and well. This is the hot tantrum we are thrown, incongruous people against the demonstrations, on radio as in life, never alike, another oppose. He could stomp on a dime and his shadow would hand you the change. Teabagger poem. It's a bit out of date, I know. It's from, I don't know, I think 2 years ago? Yeah, that's when it was happening. I bag tease, shitbag, include but don't attach. All it is pyramid, scheme milk, descent. We care, whereas I modular oil, making it here, a gas, a glass, an engine. Alright, last poem. This is my guide to Canada, I guess. Cosmofuturist nurse log. I put the God in place, but isn't technology evil? Or is C reverse of feeling and hearing reversal? Ghost forest, underlined and struck through. Hella animals leave your hills and sculpting down have fallen. Feeling inconvenience into hyperlinks. The Internet of Things screams like a dream. What's seen through a stuttering screen turns how everything is seen is. This twisting has a pleasant feeling, a subtle misaffection. It says to a glass pour into discrepancy, describes into wrong hands. I don't have anything to say that isn't obvious. You look from the faded tones, numerous in wet white fields that flicker between handwriting. Creative professionals playing frisbee on the sustainable park lawn. I have ethical issues, but it's hard to try harder than that. The gains are momentary, fortuitous bounds in the untied stakes of amnesia during an affliction year. We rhetoric to keep. This rings a jar in the ear. Depend on proof or faith. Both are scummy and commodious. The city housed their absent bodies' decomposition. You want a tattoo of yourself showing your tattoo to others. I repress, licking the sweat off your plans. I don't even like you, but in turn I do this fun thing. I jump up a badass building for people. Red Bull. A falling forward in every frame, dream highlights to yesterday's futures. I saw a conversation between one person and his phone, two dark forms in darkening repetition, and then I saw the horizon before the keel. Thank you.